Yeah, I think we could touch on how Big Mass is something that is legacy. I
Okay.
think a lot of the time we look at just the carnival experience. People don't really talk about how Big Mass is a legacy thing, that it's passed, sometimes it's passed down from person to person, or it's passed down from someone that you know that's seen you having that experience and that love for it. And that's something we could touch on.
Okay, so I'm here today with Caneisha Edwards. Caneisha is 21 years old and she's been playing Big Mass for 16 years. She's played in every category except for adult queen. And she's one of the 2 people that have a government certificate congratulating her on her first junior queen win and her involvement in keeping the culture going. Love to see it. She recently started designing her own costumes back in 2019, and she's been building her own costumes since she was 11 years old. She recently started her brand called Carnival Pinky Polly, and it's meant to showcase her involvement in the carnival scene and open up more opportunities to showcase the culture, her experience, and all things Big Mass. So first of all, thank you for being such a cultural advocate when it comes to Big Mass. So for those who don't necessarily know what Big Mass is, can you just explain it?
Yeah, so Big Mass is basically the big floats that you see on the parade. It's also what you see at the King and Queen Showcase. They are basically large costumes that portray a character or an idea that match the theme that the band's playing.
And so how did you get involved in Big Mass?
So when I was younger, I had played like a regular costume. And then one day we went to register me and I was like, I want a front line. I want a front line. So one of the mass men were like, no, we saw this girl last year. We're not giving her that. They're like, we're putting her in the competition. And then that's kind of how I got into Big Mass.
How old are you at that time?
I believe I was 4.
What?
Yeah.
So you were in your first Big Mass competition, so like junior carnival competition at 4 years old.
Yes, I took part in the female individual and I came second.
Wow. Okay, you're literally the perfect example of like in we blood. Like it's literally just in you. That's incredible. So would you say that your parents played a big role in really helping like you to have an appreciation for the culture and for Big Mass specifically, or?
Yes. So my parents actually are like the force behind everything. My mom wanted to do Big Mass for so long. So I think she kind of lives through me as I'm doing it. And they really like push me, encourage me, like always keep doing it. Every time I'm like, maybe I should take a break. They're like, no, keep going. Do it again.
So when would you ever like what happens that makes you want to take a break?
Sometimes I've been playing for so long.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, okay, maybe I just need to take like a detox and just come back stronger. But somehow I always end up coming back. I have this love for it and it doesn't want to let me go.
So how does it feel when you're actually on that stage? Like if you could describe that moment.
Love,
Yeah.
passion, it's crazy. Like I'm always so excited for that day. And when I go out there, I don't even know. Like I call it Carnival Pinky Polly. She goes out there and she does her thing. And it's not till I'm rewatching the videos, I'm like, oh, I did that.
That's incredible. So it's like your Big Mass alter ego comes out when you're on stage.
Yeah, like my own little Sasha Fierce comes out and I'm like, oh, okay, do your thing.
That's incredible. So tell me a little bit about this year and the competition this year and the design and whatnot.
So this year I did the Frog Princess. Our theme was Once Upon a Time, and that costume was a dream. Like, I can't explain how much I love that costume. It started off as something I was just thinking about consistently. And then I drew it out. I was like, okay, pencil to paper, draw it out. And I sent it to Uncle Dexter, and he was like, boom, we're doing that. And I was like, okay.
That's
And
incredible.
it just kept going. And I think for the first time and like ever, I've just been working on my costume. And every stage I was like, yeah, this is it. This is the one.
Have you always helped in actually designing your costumes? Or if not, when did you start with actually designing?
So I only started by accident in 2019. We were in the mass camp and I was just drawing. I was just doodling. And I drew a costume, which is the one I won with in 2019. And I was just like doodling. And they were like, oh, that's really nice. Uncle Dexter goes, yeah, we're doing that. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. No idea.
So,
No name, nothing.
well, tell me a little bit about the process of it going from just a drawing to the actualization, because obviously there's a lot more to big mass, because there's like engineering and like different stuff that needs to be considered. So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so from the drawing, it has the structural part of it. So that's where Uncle Dexter comes in. That's his thing. Like, he is incredible, like mastermind when it comes to those things. So he's able to like tell me, okay, this is how you need to make your frame in order for this to sit properly, for this to look a certain way. And then that from that guidance, I'm able to like decorate and make it come to life from paper.
That's so incredible. So then, even in terms of like the materials and stuff that you get, like I saw that you did a video kind of showing the behind the scenes process of that. Like, where do you get things? It's just so, like, Big Mass is so, I don't know how I would describe it. It's like so foreign to me and to a lot of people, because a lot of us just participate in like regular just costumes. So I don't know, just if you could just enlighten us on kind of like the whole process of it and like what that looks like for you and just in general.
The whole process is long.
Yeah.
There is no free time when it comes to big mass from start to end. Like, you start off looking for material, so that's going to like fabric store and taking looks, trying to see what you like, what you're going to use, and if it even matches the idea that you have going on. From there, you're looking at starting making your rods, wrapping your rods. You're looking at laying down fabric, cutting patterns. From there, then once those things are done, you're braiding, you're shooting, you're trying to see, okay, what needs to be added, what needs to be changed.
What do you mean by braiding?
So braiding is it's like the shiny outline that you see on patterns. That is braiding. That is done with hot glue. So you just run the braid and run the glue, and it makes the pattern really stand out. It gives it a bit of definition. So yeah.
Nice. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there when you were talking before, but you were getting all into it. Like, I want to know more of the details. Like, you do braiding and you do the shoots, and you mean like photo shoots, or?
No, so shooting is with the little foil things that you see that give it a bit more definition as well, is shooting. So you use a tag gun, like the ones that you use for clothes.
Okay.
And you just shoot that into the fabric that you have as your base. And from there, you create a pattern, or like in my case, I made a swamp. So we use sequins, which are little pilots that have like reflective material on them. And we just shoot those in to make it look real.
That's amazing. A lot of younger people don't go to King and Queen. You know what I mean? This year was my first time going to King and Queen. And I have an appreciation now more than before, because before I just didn't really care. Especially with like the video that you made, seeing everything that really goes into it. So how long would you say it takes to put this on? Like, you described a little bit about what goes into it. How long does it take to design, let's say, like a female individual costume?
So that really depends. It comes down to you doing, if you design it yourself, it comes down to your team. It comes down to like what you are putting out. And for me, that this year's design started last year, August.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like, that drawing was done in August 2022. And from October, I was already looking at what I kind of planned to do for material wise, like sequences and braid. Like, it comes down to really thinking about the little details. So the earlier you start, the better. In total, my costume took 2 months to make, basically. It was 6 weeks.
And I remember I tried to take a video of that costume, and I felt like I wasn't actually able to capture it in all of its magnificence. I was like, I tried to step back, but then I felt like I was too far, and then I tried to get close, but then I wasn't getting all of the costume. And it's actually such an incredible costume. I feel like you deserve that win, so congratulations.
Thank you.
One of the things that we mentioned in your bio is that you're one of the only people to be congratulated by...
So I was congratulated by the MP of Whitby, Selena Shivan, I believe her last name is. And she had invited me and the Junior King that had won in 2017 to actually come out and talk to her about the culture and talk about what we do. And that moment it's just weighs so heavy on my heart. Like, every time I think about that, I'm like, oh my gosh, someone recognized just like how much I love what I do.
Yeah.
And recognize just how much like the passion in me and the love for everything just, it just touches my heart. Like I just like feel so emotional.
Yeah. And I think that's incredible to be acknowledged for something that you're passionate about. And I think the really awesome thing about what you're doing is that, and I think sometimes when we do certain things, we don't realize the impact that we're having, right? But it's like for somebody to acknowledge and say, hey, like, congratulations, especially the fact that it's like a politician or whatever.
100%. I agree. Like I agree 100%. It was a different type of you did that type of moment. Whereas like she actually invited us and was like asking us all these questions. She was like, how did you get started? Where are you going to go next? What do you want to do? Like to see someone that wasn't in the culture so interested and invested in how our culture works is like, okay, now that I have my kind of moment to give this showcase of what our culture is about, why not talk about it? Why not share it to the full extreme?
Do you think there would ever be a time when you stop participating in Big Mass, or do you think you'll always be someone who's kind of behind the scenes, even if you're helping like the next generation?
Of course. That's me. I literally am behind the scenes right now all the time. Like I help with juniors. That is literally my area. If you come to Tribal's Mass Camp, you will never see me in the front. I'm always in the back. That is my spot.
And then when it comes to Big Mass, I don't know if you can actually talk about this, but what is like the actual cost to put on some of these costumes?
A lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Like usually I kind of guess how much my costume range, and this year I'm kind of scared to guess because it was a lot. It can go from like 1,000 on the lowest end to 8,000, depending on how much you really want to put out, how much detail you're putting in.
And then when it comes to the actual competition, like what do you win?
Not as much as you put out. You never win back the amount that you put out. But at the end of the day, like I see it as not for the money. Like it's not about how much I win. It's the fact that I got to go out there and do what I love. So money wise, it's just never as much as you put out. So don't expect much. But
okay, so 2017 was when you won your first title. And what was that title?
So I won the junior queen title. I played Bahia Flor, the Samba Queen. And that costume has a special place in my heart. I literally was talking about this the other day. I was like, that costume was so amazing. It had the one thing I wanted more than anything in the world. Right. So if you're someone that knows about mass or you don't, there's a thing called tan. And it's basically a large person, but it's worn on your body, and you have like a stick and you move it like this, and like your legs move so their legs move, and it's just this crazy like cool embodiment of a like mass. And my whole life I've always wanted that. I'm like, I want this experience. And that costume, literally the day of, I was asking the whole time, I was like, please, I was like, I really want it. I was like, I really like, can I do this with the hands? And the day of the competition, Uncle was like, let me see your hand. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is my time. I was like, I made it. And I just remember like sitting in the car before like listening to my music, and I was like, I'm going to do this.
You're practicing.
I was just seeing the performance like instantly in my head. And then we went out there and I literally was like, yep, this is my time.
and then you won.
Yeah.
That's so amazing.
It's so crazy.
It's so cool to see how passionate you are about Big Mass, honestly. And I think it's incredible that you started at such a young age. It's almost like one of those things that's like it was written or like it's destined.
Literally.
You know what I mean? That's how you feel when you're doing it, eh?
Yeah. Like I literally feel like there's one thing in this world made for everybody, and this was my thing. Like this was the thing that was just made for me. I can't see myself doing anything else. I always tell people I don't see myself being in any culture. Like you would say, oh, you know, it'd be nice to be like this culture. I'm like, no, I'm good where I'm at. I'm here doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm leaving a really good impact, and I'm creating who I am through my costume. And I'm showing just how much this like culture has to offer. You know?
So would you say like just being in the mass camp and stuff is kind of what allowed you to get an eye for a design of Big Mass?
100%. I literally grew up watching like Uncle Dexter for a little bit of time. Shane was with us. So watching them really make mass, watching my mom make my costume, my dad, my sister, like seeing them do it was just like, wow. I'm like, when is my time? Like, I just always felt like there was a moment where I was going to just step in and be like, yep, this is it.
I'm sorry. It's just so cool because then it's like you were being prepared all this time. And then now, or when it was your time, it's like you stepped out and it was like, you're killing the show. Like first place, runner up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially like even now, like as a woman, like to just have like back-to-back titles because you won this year and you also won last year, right?
I didn't win last year.
Sorry.
We don't talk about last year. She was horrible.
The costume?
No, not the costume, just the whole. Last year was a very tough time because we had shortage of materials. It was the first year back and it just wasn't lining up. And it happens. Like sometimes math just doesn't go the way you envision, like anything else. And last year was just that year. It was a year to humble myself and be like, girl, get it together. So it was a learning lesson.
Good. And that's obviously part of the journey too, right? Can't always just be up and up and up.
Yeah, like sometimes you have to fall to learn. Like, I don't know if any other West Indian people say this, but my mom always says, yeah, to feel to learn.
Yeah.
And that was my feel to learn moment.
Yeah.
I had to feel it.
Yeah. I'm sure. Was it like were you crying?
No, I was kind of just more upset at like how that whole experience played out. And I was more so just like, okay, you know what? At the end of the day, you still went out there. And I think on the road, more people were like, oh my gosh, this is the impact that I was expecting. And I was like, yeah, I know.
And then, okay, what about, I don't know if you would know this, but in terms of the judging, like what are they looking at to determine who's going to win?
So judging for King and Queen looks a lot like juniors as well. They're looking for craftsmanship. They're looking for presentation, visual impact. So those kind of things. And I believe there's a couple other categories, but those are the ones that they really look for to see what is it that you're bringing. Like, does your costume actually relate to the theme? Okay. Does it relate to what you're saying that it is? Like if I'm saying I'm playing a lotus, does it look like a lotus? Or does it look like a dandelion? Like they're looking to see what you've put out and like the amount of detail. They're looking at how you present it. If I'm doing a presentation like this year I did Tiana, like I had to be very elegant. I had to be very calm, very princess-like. So they look at those things and they really put that into consideration. Like, okay, yeah, she was able to bring that character to life and really showcase that.
Okay, so you're not just like showcasing a costume. You are becoming the character that you are presenting.
100%. You have to, like, if you're going on that stage, you need to put in everything. You are no longer you. You are now that thing that you're playing.
Do you have any like King and Queen stories, like behind the scenes or, you know, when you're actually playing in the costume that, I don't know, you want to share?
I want to talk about my experience backstage.
Yeah.
That is, I waited so long to be backstage because I used to watch it from the stands.
Oh,
so
okay.
I used to sit in the stands and watch everybody. I literally seen everybody perform, everybody and their mom. So literally I was waiting for my time. And my first time I got to perform, I think it was 2016. I was backstage for the first time. And I was so excited because I was like, yes, I finally am in the back. I'm behind the scenes. I'm literally seeing everybody. And Tribal has this thing where like we show up and we're literally a unit. Like we're bringing the costumes like it's a Trojan horse. Like I don't even know how to explain it. It's so crazy. But like on that day, the energy like the whole team just gives off is like, wow, we did that. Like I don't know how to explain that. But I couldn't wait. And the moment I had was just like chef's kiss.
To like when you actually touch the stage?
Yeah. So literally walking in from like when you pass those gates, I was like, oh, thank you. I was like,
you were waiting so long for this moment.
Literally, I was like, this is it. This is the moment. And I had literally told no one that I was performing. And literally my grandma's in the stands and my aunts, and they're all sitting there. And they're like, my nanny goes, I think that's Caneisha's costume. No clue. She had no idea. And I went out there and I performed. I went to see her in the stands. I'm like, hey, I was backstage. She's like, screw your backstage. She's like, you went on stage and you didn't tell nobody.
That's so cool. It's really nice to see your passion and to see your enthusiasm. And I think that's something that we need just in community in general, but particularly in this community. Like, for example, like I said, like I never was exposed to Big Mass or anything like that. I'm from Mississauga, first of all. So we don't even have like it's not like Scarborough. You
I
know
get
what I
it.
mean?
Literally, Whitby has nothing like this. I get you.
Yeah. So it's just nice to see your enthusiasm, because I believe that when you're enthusiastic about something, like people kind of feed off of that, and then it encourages them to be like, oh, well, like what's she so excited about? Like, let me find out more about this. Let me learn more about this myself. And so even chatting with you and hearing your enthusiasm, again, this was my first year at King and Queen. Kind of wasn't the best experience because it got rained out. So I didn't really get to, I guess, see it in its fullness. But I look forward to experiencing another King and Queen. Have you ever participated in King and Queen in Trinidad?
That is my goal. It's at the top of my bucket list. I literally dream. That is literally my dream. The day I touch that stage, I could die happy.
Yeah.
I always say that. I'm like, the day I touch that stage, it's over. Like, I've done it all. I don't like win or lose. I'm the great.
Yeah.
Like, I literally got to do that. And I watch that showcase every year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going in 2024. And I said, I don't care what y'all are doing on that Thursday. I'm going to preliminaries. I'm going the Sunday. Dimash, I'll be there.
Oh, so King and Queen in Trinidad is not just a one day like here?
No, it's actually 3.
Oh,
so
wow.
it starts with a semifinal, then, well, your preliminaries, semifinals, and then you have the finals.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it gets intense because it literally, like, they have the opportunity in Trinidad to, like, add to their costume, change it, make adjustments. So it starts off like you could see a costume and be like, oh, it's all right. And then by like semis, you're like, whoa.
Oh, it's a different costume by then.
Like it's built up and you're like, okay, I see you. I see where your vision was going.
Okay, so they don't show the full thing.
No.
Okay.
They don't have to because they can add to it. So like that part is like always so exciting because I'm like, how far are you guys going to go? And in Trinidad, they literally do anything. They literally take a dream and they're like, yep, mass.
And they make it.
And it's like, okay, wow. This year they had done a like rotating type of robotic costume in the King category. And at first we were like, oh, is this like an intro like for someone's like presentation? And then it started to like rotate. We were like, oh, that's a King. And it was so interesting because it was like never done before.
Yeah.
And just watching like how they created it and how much thought and creativity went into that, I'm like, wow.
I would love to watch, and I always talk about this, I would love to watch a documentary or a TV series that shows us behind the scenes of everything it takes to get to that point where you guys have to cross the stage. Because realistically, I know there's so much that goes into it, like blood, sweat, and tears. There's probably all kind of drama sometimes. Like I can only imagine. And I would be there, the first one in line to watch that on my television.
I literally even say this. Since we were kids, I was like, they had dance moms. I was like, we need mass moms. Mass moms need to be a thing.
Oh my God, that gave me tingles.
It literally needed to be a thing. Like growing up in the mass camp, everybody's mom was literally on it. Like I feel like we would have eaten up everything. Like from day 1 to competition day, everyone's mom was just like, get this, run this.
Oh my gosh, that is such a good show idea. What the heck? I hope the producers or whoever ever watching this one day, mass moms,
make it happen.
And we need Caneisha on that production team. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just call me. I'm available anytime.
So then in terms of actually just going back to Trinidad, King and Queen, how would you even participate in that? Like, do you have to be a Trinidad born person, or like what does that look like?
I don't know. I've heard no, you don't have to. I heard you can, if your parents are from there, you can do it. I'm not sure. But I'm hoping that they take international people. Like, I will go get my dual citizenship right now.
Do it.
Say no more.
Go sign some papers. Sign the papers from now. Hopefully, well, you know, it's Caribbean people, so they're going to take a long time for that to even go through. But, you know, and then I think next year for you, it would be awesome to like go to the King and Queen and try to like chat with people and see like, oh, like how can I participate, or like, do you guys let, you know, my parents are both Trinidadian, like how can I participate in this, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The day that you cross the stage on Trinidad, I'll shed a tear for you still. I cry easy, so but I'll
Thank
my God,
you.
I remember when she was on the podcast and she said that was her dream. Like,
Oh my gosh, stop. That is so funny. I actually, thank you.
yeah, like I think that would be really, really, really incredible. But like outside of big mass, like do you ever just play regular mass? Like when you go to Trinidad, are you gonna participate in the carnival?
That was literally me this year for the first time. I played a regular mass in Trinidad, and
Nice.
it was amazing. Like
Yeah.
Trinidad Carnival is a dream. Like if you ever get a chance to go,
Mm-hmm.
take like Trinidad, take all my money because it's so
It
good.
definitely will. I know that.
It does. It's expensive, but it's worth it. Like
yeah.
I literally came back and I was like, guys, everybody, we're going next year. Like
Yeah.
I came back the Sunday I bought my ticket to go next year.
What do you mean?
I literally came back. I was in my bed. My sister's like, oh, it's 6 something. It's 6 something. Me and my mom were like,
But yeah, would you ever play King and Queen anywhere else other than Trinidad? I feel like Trinidad is like the Mecca. That's where your family's from. But would you ever play like, I don't know if Barbados has King and Queen or like other big carnivals?
if they do, I would love to. Call me anytime.
You would do it anywhere?
Anywhere.
Oh my God, that's so incredible.
That is literally, if I could do big mass full time, I would.
yeah.
Like I will quit my day job.
yeah.
Hire me. You want a big mass player? Call
What
me.
if you were like a big mass designer and people like hired you from all over the world? Like, no, we need Carnival Pinkie Polly to come and make her design here because we saw what she did in the past few years. We want her. Is that even a thing? Do people do? I mean, anything can become a thing at any time, but is that a thing right now? I know.
Like people buy costumes. Like they will buy like our costume from here for like Miami or like from New York and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And like that's kind of how you get yourself out there. They're like, okay, this is kind of what we do.
Mhm.
But I don't really know if people are like, hey, can you draw this for me?
Okay.
I know it's more like sections that do that. Like
Yeah.
you
that's what I was
have
thinking.
people that do those things.
Yeah, they have like designs and like they buy the designs from like, oh, this is a Trinidad designer or whatever, and then
Yeah.
they do it up here. Okay, well, I don't know. What would you say like needs to happen? I don't know, because I just feel like maybe I'm wrong in this assumption and I'm just putting my own experience on everybody else. But I feel like King and Queen, the audience or like the demographic of people that go to King and Queen is a bit older. What would you, is that
100%.
okay? So what would you say maybe needs to happen to kind of get like a resurgence or like a younger people involved?
I feel like not enough young people come to King and Queen because they don't know about it or they just weren't brought up into it.
Mm-hmm.
So to kind of bring people in, we need to push it. Like we have to have people really pushing the ideas about it and talking about it and showing like what it is. I feel like we also need to cater towards younger people, whereas right now it's not so much tailoring towards what the younger generation's into. Like it's not on TikTok. You won't see.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, maybe you guys just need to get King and Queen on TikTok.
Yeah, like the second I remember when they did like the live a couple years ago, my best friend was like, I saw you. I watched you on a live stream. I was like, what live stream?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, yeah, I was on this. I was watching you. So like I feel like getting it out more like that so people can see it
Yeah.
is something that's really important. Like even this year I was on Blog TO.
Oh, nice.
And thank you. Someone in the like comments was like, oh, where is this taking place? Like, how do I get to this? I didn't even know this was a thing. I'm like, getting it out there is really important because people don't really see it until we touch the road. And then they're like, oh,
And then it's done.
yeah.
Yeah.
And at that point, like we've already done our presentation. We've already, you know, like by the time it hits the road, we're not even, sometimes people aren't even pulling their own costumes. Like it's someone else pulling it on the road. So I think pushing that on social media, pushing it in like from the start is really important.
And when does this start technically?
I feel like pushing it from day one, like as soon as carnival season starts,
It's like band launch time?
band launch season, we need to talk about it. Like putting it out there because we
actually
really start getting into the carnival spirit from band launch. And from there, we're like, okay, let's talk about it. But it's more so focused on sections. You never really hear much about Big Mass unless you're involved in like the carnival scene.
Yeah, it's very much. But also, isn't there like kind of an element of like secrecy when it comes to king and queen? Because nobody really wants anyone to know what anyone else is up to. Like, I don't know much about it, but I feel like I heard that that's kind of the case.
Yeah, Big Mass is very secretive. Like, if you're in the carnival scene, like, you know, like, you're not walking in anyone's mass camp and you know your play. Like, you're just rude at that point. Like, Big Mass is something that people we take so seriously. Like, it's soccer to me.
Okay.
Personally, to me, it's soccer. Like, that is competitive. I'm here, your competition. Yeah, I love you. You're great. But this is like a sport. And I think a lot of other mass camps also see it that way because we're all trying to win. We're all trying to go out and put out our best. And nobody wants to be like, oh, well, I know what they're doing. I already did that. I'm going to come do it again. Right? Like, everybody wants their time to shine. So we kind of all just tuck it back. By the end, we're like, yeah, okay, we did great, sweetie. Like,
yeah, it's so funny. I was talking to somebody else at a mass camp, and she was like, had the exact same sentiment. She's like, yeah, like, you know, it's all love, but king and queen, when we go out on that day, it's like, yo, like, we're coming out here to crush you guys.
like, literally, like, we're all friends.
Yeah.
I love you all, but king and queen, ease up. Like, that's just it. Like, king and queen, I literally, because I've grown up in mass. I started at Saldina, then I came to tribal. So, like, I know Saldina and, like, people from their mass camp and people that have left our mass camp. And on that day, they'll be like, oh, hey. I'm like, no hugs. I'm just that person.
They're probably like, this girl is so extra. I swear.
My mom hates it. My mom's like, stop doing that.
Because you're embarrassing her.
I'm just like, it's just a thing. I'm like, competition day. I'm like, I'm in my zone.
Yeah.
I'm in my element. Like, I need y'all to just respect that. I'm like, after I compete, I'm hugging everybody. It's a hug for everyone. I was like, but before the competition, I'm like, hey, hi, you're getting a hi.
Okay.
That's it. Like, I feel like everyone is always in the zone on that day. Like, we're all just like, nothing can like, don't distract me. Don't take me out of this phase. Like, I'm here to win, but I'm here to like showcase.
Okay, so why is it important for you to get, and I'm sorry, I don't know if I'm just not athletic and competitive, but why is it so important for you to get in that zone and to stay in that zone? And like, how could like hugging somebody like potentially break that zone?
For me, it's like being in that, like, when I'm in my zone, I just think of, okay, I'm calm. I'm getting myself mentally prepared for like this moment. I never get nervous. Like, people are like, oh, are you excited? Are you nervous? I'm like, no, until I'm in Lamport.
Okay.
Or like it's competition day. Then I'm like, okay, this is the time. Like, I get a little bit anxious. So for me, like, just being able to focus on myself, focus on what I need to do, and focus on like making sure my costume and everything's good. I'm like, I just need to keep it far. I need to take a little step back, focus on me, and then I can do what I gotta do.
Is it kind of like gymnastics where you already have a routine, or do you just kind of go out and just the spirit?
I'm gonna tell you right now, one thing about tribal people, we don't practice. We go out there and it's just whatever comes out.
Okay.
I don't think any of us ever have been like, oh, I know exactly what I'm gonna do with this. Like, we, until the day like we're listening to our music, and like we'll kind of get a glimpse, at least I get a glimpse of what like I think I'm gonna do. But when we get there, it's just like Pinky Polly.
Yeah.
She's out there. She just knew exactly what to do. Her timing's just timing. Like, I don't know.
Okay, tell me about timing. Is that something that you guys get judged on?
Timing is only like your time on the stage. But when I say timing, I mean, we have an intro. Then we have our song that plays afterwards. So I'll call it a cue. Like, for me, I call it Pinky Polly's cue. She just figures it out. Like, when my music is about to switch, she's like, make sure you're facing the judges. Make sure you're about to bow. Make sure you got your little performance going. And that's her thing. Like, she just knows. She's like, okay, 3, 2, 1. If you're not facing the front right now, turn around. Like,
so what's going through your mind when you're on the stage? Like,
no idea.
That? Oh my gosh.
I know nothing. I literally come out of my costume and I'm like, like,
so literally it's like a carnival spirit.
Literally.
just takes over you. The alter ego comes over you.
Literally.
You're on the stage, you're doing whatever, and then you watch your back. You're like, oh, that's what I did.
Literally, the last thing I remember before going on stage always is my dad always says to me, he's like, you do what you got to do. And that's it. After that, nothing.
Wow.
I see no one. I hear no one. Nothing.
Just the music.
Not even.
Really?
Nothing. It's like I'm deaf. Like I hear nothing. I see nothing.
So it literally, you genuinely have an alter ego that comes out when you're on the, like, you're not even just saying that. Like,
Literally. Like since I was
there's
a
actually
kid.
a brain switch that happens.
Yeah. Like since I was a kid, it's always been like that. My mom be like, Keisha, how'd you get the energy to do this? I'm like, do what? Like, in 2019, I like lifted up my costume. And then when we were on the road, I was trying to do it. I was like, Mom, I can't.
You're lying.
I was like, I can't. I literally couldn't. I was like, Mom, this is not working.
That just feels like it's like it's actually in your blood. Like it feels like some kind of ancestral thing where it's like you just tap into it as soon as you touch the stage.
Yeah, like for me to lift up that costume, I had to like lift it like this. Whereas like on the stage, I was like, it's crazy.
It's like the adrenaline and stuff too.
Yeah, just goes. It's crazy.
So I can't even believe what I just heard. That's incredible. Like I've never heard anyone say that before.
It's weird. It's so weird. And like last year was the only time that I've ever been like aware. And it was like everything I was doing on the stage, I was like, whoa, the stage is kind of big. Like I was actually like fully aware of like everything that was going on. That's why I say last year is just we just forget about it. It's a flip.
Oh yeah. Last year was the year that
it was a glitch.
Humbled you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
last
like,
year, Pinkie Polly didn't even come out last year.
She was on vacation.
She didn't even come out last
year. She did not.
She didn't need to be there last year.
She was like, I told you I want a break. What are you wrong with you?
Oh my gosh. So this year you don't remember anything from the stage at all?
No, nothing. Literally if you watch like videos, like my corset was like sliding down and my mom was like, you didn't feel it sliding down? I'm like, no, nothing.
Whoa. I feel like that's something that people can study. Like what happens, I don't know, like if there's some sort of like chemical shift that happens across the board to a lot of people that play king and queen and like take it like serious, or if you're just like a crazy exception.
Am I just crazy?
No, not like crazy like you're insane. No, but there's like an exception. Like no, people are like, no, every time I play king and queen, I know exactly what's going on actually. But I would imagine that that's something that happens to a lot of people, because again, somebody that I was talking to about king and queen, I asked her, I was like, would you ever play king and queen? She's like, no, like there's like a certain type of person that is like made for doing that. So would you agree with that? Or
100%.
What type of person is that?
I feel like, I don't even know the type of person, but like I feel like you're just bored with it. Like we always talk about when you watch someone that plays big mass, that loves big mass, like I'll talk about Adria. She's our female individual. She literally has the foot movements. When you're playing big mass, like there's a certain way you dance because you have to be elaborate. Everything you do has to be big. It can't be small.
Okay.
So like when I watch her and I watch other kids, I'm like, yep, that one.
Okay.
I'm like, you're going places because you can see it. Like you just know that person, like even the junior queen that won this year, like watching her, I'm like, yep, you're going up.
Yeah.
Like it's just seeing those movements, seeing, okay, yep, you know exactly when to turn. You know exactly how to fight the wind. Not fight you when you shouldn't fight the wind.
I didn't even consider that. Like there's natural elements that you guys are working against sometimes, eh?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So like when you see people and you're watching them, you're like, you look effortless. Like you look like you just are walking. That kind of plays into a big mass player. You're just like, yep, you know what you're doing.
So when you talk about the movements and stuff, when I think about big mass, it's always like there's like hip like jerking. I don't know how to explain it, but like, is that the reason why the movement is like that? Is it because you're trying to move the entire costume with your body?
So it depends. I am a hip person.
Okay.
Like at the end, my hips are always bruised.
Oh,
because
okay.
I move with my waist. Where some people move with their legs.
Okay.
I also partially move my legs, complicated, but some people are more so arms. So you'll see them more so using their hands. But when you're doing big mass, you have to be big. Like your movements have to be big. If you say you're playing a water costume and you want it to give off like a splash, you have to be able to move in a way that's jerky, but
you don't practice this at all.
no.
Like you don't try it on and see how it moves or anything.
No.
Like this is just a normal thing where people don't try it on.
Yeah. Like you're lucky if you get to put your costume on.
Because it's not ready.
Like you're still like sometimes you're working on it till like the Wednesday before.
Oh my God.
So like
I'm here thinking you guys have a routine. You know what you're going to do. Whole time is a spirit of carnival coming over everybody.
sometimes some people practice. Some people like have routines. They go through it. They practice it. Some people do that. I don't know anybody that does that from my mass camp, but I know there's people that do. And you just have to know how to execute when it comes down to it.
How do you learn how to do these movements? How do you know what to do if you don't practice? Is it just from watching people?
Honestly, I feel like it is. I also feel like it's so like you're born with it. Like I feel like a bit of where I come from, like my movements when I was younger especially, comes from watching like Uncle Dexter and watching people like Shane and Joella, them performing. Watching them, I feel like those are a bit of where my moves came from when I was younger. And then as I grew up, I kind of figured out, okay, this is what works for me.
Like your own style.
Yeah. Because like if you go back and you watch like videos of me when I was younger, you're like, okay, why she do that? And I'm like, yeah, that's stole that from you.
So you started out at 4 years old and you played every year since then up until now.
Yes.
I really thought you were going to say no. That is
COVID was my break.
Oh yeah. Well, that doesn't even count. Like everything was closed down them time.
Yeah. Yeah. I was robbed
of
some years.
So I'm just really processing that you've been doing this for 16 years.
Yeah.
Bruh.
Literally my whole life.
Yeah. It is your whole, like from childhood, from you don't even really know what's going on, but you kind of have an understanding. You could talk, you could walk, you could whine. You've been playing big mass. Did your parents ever play big mass or they're just always in the carnival scene?
So my dad's not a mass person. Okay. He'll always say that. He's only in mass because of me. That's what he tells people. My mom is the mass person. Okay. She has played, well, she didn't get to compete the first time, but she did do a queen 1 year. And
here in Toronto?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
That was literally, I watched that video the other day because I was like, Mom, like, that is you. She literally is me.
Yeah.
I feel like we share the same energy. Like, my mom and I literally will be in the car just talking about mass, and she'll be like, if you do this, and I'm like, like, how did you know what I was about to say? When it comes to mass, like, she's the mass person. She's my momager. Literally anything mass related, she just is on it. She like sends me a list. She's like, don't forget the sequence. Don't forget to tell your dad to pick up this. I'm like, okay.
So has your mom actually, like, did she do the same thing that you do, like design and all those things?
No. So that's the funny thing. She doesn't have the mass brain. Okay. To like design and do those things. She has to like see it and then she'll be like, oh. Right. But when it comes to like performing and doing everything else, she's on it. My mom is on it. Like,
would you say that your same like carnival Pinkie Polly alter ego comes out when you're designing, or is it just mostly on the stage?
A bit of both. Okay. I think she peeks through a little bit when I have an idea. Like, I feel like sometimes when my ideas are pressing, like right now, I have 2 costumes drawn, and I feel like it's her like, hey.
For sure. This is so interesting to me because, like, I know you're calling it an alter ego, but I just feel like I'm sorry, I'm not trying to promote the podcast title, but I really feel like it's just like a thing that's just in your blood. Like, it's just in you. Like nobody could take that away from you. Like, it is not, you know, some people, they learn how to do things. Like, some people are just, like you said, they're just born with it. Yeah. I feel like you actually were just born with this thing. And I'm so excited to see the way that it flourishes. And it's nice. It's so nice when someone is doing like exactly what they love to do and just seeing the way that they radiate and they smile and they shine. You know what I mean? So I can only imagine what it will be like for you when you cross that stage in Trinidad. I have 100% faith that you will get to experience and participate in a king and queen in Trinidad. And I feel like it'll be life-changing for you.
Please God.
Yeah, no.
I really want that moment. Like, and it's not even just me. Like, I can't take all the credit.
Yeah.
Like, my whole mass life is made up of not just who I am.
Mm-hmm.
It comes from my family. It comes from my tribal family. It comes from my friends. Like, when this year, literally, I told my team, I was like, guys, this isn't my win. This is our win. I was like, we won. Like, this, it's me out there. Yes, it's Carnival, Pinky Paula doing her thing. But behind the scenes, like, there's so much people that put a hand, that talk about it, and that also share the same likeness for mass the way I do. And to have them behind me and really pushing the same culture ideas and the same, like, love for it is so important when it comes to making big mass. And I think that's something that has to be put out there. You know, when you're making big mass, you have to love it. And you have to have people behind you that are loving it and that are there and pushing for it. Like, sometimes you have to have that support team that's not just emotional, but like, that's a great idea, let's go, make it go. And I think having Uncle Dexter as someone on my team is so important. Like, having him there consistently is like, here's an opportunity to learn. Here's an opportunity to see, okay, how can I one up this idea? How can I take what I drew and make it better? Like, that is something that we have to look at as big mass people, is how do we learn from people that have been doing it before? How do we have people on our team ranging from different age groups and keeping it still so much passion in it, and keeping them engaged and seeing how they grow and evolve in it too. So I think that's something that I have to talk about when it comes to big mass.
That it's not just the one person. Like, when you see someone out there on the stage in their costume doing their thing, like, there's however many people behind them to get to that moment.
Yeah, like, it's not just me. It's the whole team. My whole team. I have the best team in the world. Literally, they don't even know I'm here today. So I hope they see this. They feel gassed up. I hope they feel gassed up that I'm talking about them, because they literally are the best team in the world. Like, imagine having people that love you so much, that love what you do, and that see how much you love it, and literally will come after work to come help you, come on Saturdays to help you. Like, I don't even want to go to the mass camp and work after I just finished a 8-hour shift, but they come. Like, they're there all the time. I'm not saying I don't want to be there. Obviously I have to be there, but like,
no,
that.
but I understand though, because it's like, you work your full-time job, but you have your passion, and it's kind of like taking that little bit of energy that you do have to get yourself there. And then I'm sure once you're there, like, the energy's back.
Exactly. So like, having a team like that where people are driven as much as I am to just come and be like, yeah, okay, Caneisha, we're doing this. We're pushing. Like, my team literally will be like, we're not going home till it's done. Let's go. Like, they are so, they're just amazing. Like, they're so involved, and they know like my standard of work, that they'll be like, Keisha's not gonna like this, do it again.
Okay. So sometimes they're helping to work on the costume when you're not there.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Like, that type of team. Like, big mass takes so much that you have to have people that are also dedicated, people that are also willing to help you. And when you're out there, like, yes, it's you on the forefront, but the people on the sidelines also take a look at them, because those are the people that have put their hands in. Like, those are the people that are like, oh, thank God this worked out. Like, they're on the sides just like also living through you. They're like, we did that. Thank God it worked. Thank God it's out there and it's doing great.
Oh, because you don't actually put it together till you get to the competition?
So if you're lucky. Like, this year.
Hold on. I'm sorry. So you mean you guys don't test it out?
No, 95% of the time you don't get to test it out. Like, this year I had the opportunity to put it up. And like, I put up some pieces. And then I put up just like the skirt. But I didn't put up the whole thing. And the first time it was fully up was at King and Queen.
How do you know if it's going to work?
You just know.
Oh my God.
Because it's already structured, right? Like, you just have to put the pieces in place.
So all the pieces and everything, like, those get fitted. And that they make sure that that's good. Yeah. And then you just design on top of it. And then you put it together like a puzzle on King and Queen Day.
Basically, yeah.
Wow.
So
I'm just shocked to know that nobody practices, nobody does anything. It's just kind of like we make sure that the structure is good, and then we design, and then touch the stage.
it's literally that. Like, you just have to be in it. Like, once you get it going, it's just pace. That's what we call it. It's pace. Because when King Queen Day comes, you want to make sure everything is good. Like, there's no time for mistakes throughout that whole process. And on that day,
what would a mistake look like?
Like a piece breaking, or having, say, your frame has a piece that just broke off. Like, we don't have time for that. Like, before King and Queen, you want to make sure everything's welded properly. Everything's bent in the way that it should be bent. Nothing's ripping. Nothing has a hole. Like, literally, you have to make sure that everything is perfect.
And then there's people on the team who, like, their specific job is to, like, make sure that everything's good before you go, or is just still kind of winging it, partially pray and go.
I think some people do. My team's pretty structured.
Yeah.
Like, my dad and my boyfriend, they are my mounters. And then I have, like, other people from the mass camp that are also helping mount it. But like, I still go in, I'm like, okay, this is how this goes. This is where this goes. And then my best friend, she is my mass coordinator. She legit is my right hand when it comes to mass. Like, I'll be like, where's my boots? She's like, boots. I'm like, headpiece. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, she literally is my right hand. And then I have people that are like fixing things. Like, if they see a spot, they'll like shoot something, they'll fix. So literally my mom is also part of that. She makes sure that I'm head to toe. She's like, neck piece, arm piece, leg piece, this, everything. Wow. So literally that's where the team comes in. Like, you have to have a good team to make sure that you are getting everything, the whole 9 yards.
All I'm seeing in my mind is mass moms. Like, now that I hear more of what it takes and how, like, even your story of how, like, your whole family's involved in your thing, your mom, your dad, your boyfriend, your best friend, like, it's a family thing for you. And then even with the band that you're with, I'm sure it's still kind of like a family or a team dynamic, and just how that, I guess, gives you the support that you need to go out on the stage and do what you do every time.
Yeah, literally. When I couldn't make my own costumes, it was my sister. So literally, like, my whole family is literally behind it. Like, literally.
Yeah.
It is a family thing. Like, even tribal itself, like, we all grew up together. Like, we've all started at juniors. Like, we were all playing in juniors, and we watched every single person move up. My literal like obsession was to play all four of us, me, Selena, Uncle Dexter, Courtney, all like King and Queen. And in 2019 that happened. I was so happy. I was like, yes, I made it. Oh, it was like a stamp of approval.
So so when it comes to King and Queen, is it like certain people play certain, what are they called, like roles? Or
so there's categories.
Okay, categories.
You have your female individual, your male individual, then you have your queen and your king. So that basically is 4 categories. Every band has to bring a piece for those categories. And yeah.
So do you always play female individual?
Yes. That is my position for now.
Do you ever want to play queen?
That is my goal. Yeah. One day to play queen.
Here in Toronto, or like in
Yes.
Trinidad? Okay.
My goal is it is the last thing on my list. I've played in every category here. I've done junior female individual, junior queen, adult female. My last position is queen. And the second I do that, I'm like, yep.
Oh, okay. So I understand how it's going to happen now. So what is going to happen is we're going to see the story of she went from junior female, junior queen, adult female individual, then queen. From there, you're going to go to Trinidad and you're going to do from female individual for however long.
So Trinidad doesn't have a female. They only have queens.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They only have queens. So the way Trinidad works is actually they have categories. So it's like they'll have like fantasy, or they'll have historical. So those are the categories.
So it's not based on like a band's theme? It's just based on whatever you enter in?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So do you even have to be a band to participate in King and Queen?
Well, they do have a band. Like, they have Entourage and those kind of productions. But it's a lot just more of showcasing the costumes and putting out something that's big.
Something that I heard somebody say is like king and queen in Trinidad is not necessarily like king and queen here, in terms of like the costumes here are very big. Whereas in Trinidad, you don't always see like the bigness of costumes, but you still see that level of creativity. Would you say that's true?
Yes, 100%. Trinidad is, so I'm literally a big mass enthusiast. I've watched big mass from 1970 something forward. So back in the day, big mass was small. It was carried. It wasn't always on wheels, whereas now everything's on wheels. So in Trinidad, you still see some people carrying their costume, whereas here you won't see that.
Okay.
Here, it's more big mass is wheels. You have to be on wheels. That is how big mass here works. In Trinidad, you'll still see a little bit of, fancy sailor, or you'll see like a washer, or you'll see like the older type of costumes. So when it comes to them portraying things, it's really more sentimental. It's more traditional. And then you see bigger costumes that are more like here, that are on wheels, that are big, that have different type of technology, hydraulics. You kind of get a bit of both.
That sounds like they're putting way more money into their big mass and stuff than we ever could here. But also, again, like Carnival is just so embedded.
It's the Mecca.
Yeah. But also it's so embedded into the place, like just the beingness, and like people's understanding of themselves is very tied to the Carnival
100%
throughout the Caribbean.
Literally. I think that is one thing that just like when Caribbean people are in Carnival, like it's unity. Like we all are in something that is bigger than us. That's like, it's unifying us, but it's bigger than us.
Yes,
and it's not even just us sitting and saying, oh yeah, like I played mass or I did this. Like there's so many different cultural aspects to the whole Carnival scene. Like there's Pan Alive, there's big mass, there's sections, there's the whole production. Like wherever you fall in, it's still so impactful. It's so like, I don't know what to call it. It's the spirit.
Like, and there's so many layers to it, right? And I think that's why I like the fact that I even have, by God's grace, this podcast to have these conversations, because it's like there's so many different aspects of Carnival. Of course, here in Toronto, it's going to be a little bit different. Like of Carnival is not like,
it's not this big.
It's like, not like in it, you know what I mean? The way that it is in the Caribbean. If you know, you know. But like, just to see the different layers of it. And I feel like having this platform and just to be able to have conversations about, hey, like, it's not only about just like costumes on the road, but there's also like big mass, there's pan, there's all these different things that you're talking about. There's calypso competitions. Like, there's so, and like I said, when I was speaking with David, he was on the first episode. Carnival is a season. It's not just the one day. There's so much that leads up. And even hearing that Trinidad King and Queen is like a semifinals and all these different things, I'm like, yo, that is like a legitimate competition. Like that's the real thing.
It is. It literally is. Like it's on my bucket list. If anyone from Trinidad is listening, I want to do the commentary for like that showcase. I watch it every year. I listen to the commentary, and it's also what I use to give myself feedback for Big Mass. But they literally always give commentary, and I'm like, one day I'm going to go there. And they're gonna be like, Caneisha, I would love to have you sit on our news station and talk about Big Mass and comment with us. That's all I want to do.
So here's how the story's actually gonna go. So you did almost every category here in Toronto. You're gonna do Queen here in Toronto. Then you're gonna do Queen in Trinidad for however long you want, and then when you're done doing that, you're gonna be a commentator.
Imagine.
I mean, doesn't that make sense? It's like a logical. I mean, she did it in Toronto, then she did it in Trinidad. She killed it here. She did everything there too, and now she's
sitting next to us talking. Hey,
yeah. And remember when she was on the podcast and she said she would do full-time big mass full-time if she could. Like, I definitely see that for you. And honestly, seeing your enthusiasm and your passion for big mass honestly just lights something up in me where I feel like I need to figure out what this is about too, and just like light that up in myself, because an aspect of the culture again where it's like you don't see so many young people participating in it or highlighting it or anything like that. So just hearing how excited you are about it, it just makes me feel like, let me find a way to
get myself in.
and I'm not even saying like participate or like wear a big mask costume. Actually, I think that might be really freaking cool, but
Do it.
Yeah. Just
do it.
I mean, I don't know. You never know.
I think if someone's looking for a female individual, Kiana's ready. She's looking. She's putting out applications. They're signed, sealed.
Yeah, that might be really cool. Actually, just thinking about that now, but I feel like I need to learn more about it first and develop like a real understanding and appreciation for it first before I go and just put on a costume, because I want it to come from like a real place and not just from like a I wore it and it's done and I was scared. Like I want to be like, no, like I felt the spirit that Caneisha was talking about. Like I didn't know what was going on the stage and I just saw the lights, and you know what I mean? Like I think that would be really cool. I'm not saying that I'm don't no one take this too seriously, but we're just talking, but
we're just chatting. It's a little conversation.
But I think that would actually be a really cool experience, just to experience that on the other side.
But if you play big mass, you have to make it. Like you have to go in the mass camp and put in the work, because you will appreciate it way more. Like I've never had to just jump in a costume, so like I can't speak on if it hits different, but I know making it, seeing it go up, you're like, this is it. Like you just feel so much joy, and like a mix of emotions, because you just know how much went into it, and you just know how much this moment means, because you're like weeks, months went into it, and you feel it. You're like, this is why I did what I did. And it's like you love it more.
Okay, thank you for that advice. So but seriously though, like I feel like I would have to have more understanding and learn more about it. Like it's not something that I would just want somebody to throw me in a costume like tomorrow, like, oh, let's just have it. Like, no, I don't have that appreciation yet for it. Like I need to like feel the hardship of what it takes to make it, like you said, to be able to appreciate it on that day. So then just when we think about having more young people involved in the big mass scene again, because it's like an older population, and so you know, things can wither away as the older population. What would you say, other than like TikTok and stuff like that, like what would you say we need to do to get a younger population?
Get in the mass camp.
Yeah.
I can't stress that enough. Like,
but here's my thing. Sometimes it feels like the carnival scene is super gate kept. So it's like some people don't even know you can go in the mass camp. And sometimes even for me, it's like, am I allowed to come in here? Like, am I invited in the back? Like, how can I participate? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Honestly, like what C does, she puts out like posts about volunteering.
Okay.
Like, I think seeing those opportunities and being like, hey, like I want to come out, I want to help. Like I've had people message me and be like, hey, how do I help out at Tribal? Like, how do I do this? And I'm like, message them, shoot them a text, be like, hey, I'm looking to get like my foot in the door somewhere, or like just walk in and see if someone's looking for help. I think getting started there, you kind of work your way backwards to every like department. You get roped in.
Eventually you'll make your way to big mass.
Eventually, like somehow you'll end up being like in the back with a tag gun, and you're like, oh, how did I get this? I was just baking bras 2 minutes ago. Like, getting in the mass camp is the first step.
Okay.
Definitely getting in there, seeing what it's about, seeing how things work, seeing how that whole operation goes through. I feel like that makes you also appreciate it more. That makes you be like, yeah.
I feel like with this Face of the Festival experience, like, and really just having this conversation with you right now, honestly, makes me want to be more involved in like the mass camp side of things. Because I feel like there's like this cultural aspect that you don't get to appreciate when you just get a box with a costume. And
100%.
Like, oh, well, like it just shows up. Like I just pay my money and then I just get my costume.
Yeah, you don't see all of it. Like the fact that people are there every day. The fact that people are coming and they're bringing their team, they're bringing people to put out something great. Like, how many times a year do you get to see people working together, working to do something bigger than them. Like you don't see that often. You don't see a group of people passionate about something unless it's like a sport or like
That's
something small.
Well, that reminds me, shout out to Crown Mass. David on the first episode, one of their like taglines, I think, is like Carnival is sport. And so just thinking about the competitiveness of King and Queen, thinking about how everybody comes together to do this thing. It's like a team and then team versus team or whatever.
It is a sport.
It really, and I never thought, like I heard them saying Carnival sport. I'm like, okay, yeah, how? But now when I hear the way that you're talking about all these different elements of it, I'm like, wait a minute. It kind of is a sport.
You know what's funny? Yahoo put out an article and they had like my picture and they were like talking about mass. And I was like, guys, Yahoo, according to Yahoo, mass is a sport. I'm an athlete now. I have no athletic bone in my body, but Yahoo said I'm an athlete. So LeBron James who?
Yeah. And you're like the top athlete in the country.
I'm on there, you know. I think Tribal's Team USA in the gymnastics category. That's
Why is that like the baddest gymnastics team?
Yeah, of course. Simone Biles.
Sorry. Oh, yeah. Sorry, I don't know much about gymnastics.
So I feel like a lot of people in the big mass scene are a lot older and not enough young people are involved, as you were saying. And I think it comes from a lot of the time we don't see the opportunity to come in as like someone that's young. So being able to come in and, you know, not only just see it from a outsider standpoint, but come in and see it as a helper standpoint is really important.
Okay.
And I think a lot of big mass right now is being made by people that have been in it for years. And there's people like Nicholas who plays for Saldina. He is someone that is, you know, working to get mass into a place where it's evolving and changing, and people like Uncle Dexter who's teaching our generation to really put forward good costumes, what it takes and those kind of things. But I also feel like not enough young people are there to see it because they're not getting that opportunity.
Yeah, you know what the thing is too? One thing that we have to be aware of is kind of like, where is young people's attention?
Yes.
If we want young people to be involved in something, we have to find where they are and speak to them in those places.
100%.
And a lot of times, like we mentioned earlier, young people are in digital or social online spaces.
Yep.
For the most part, when we're talking about like Gen Zs, like really like the younger generation, that looks like TikTok.
100%.
That looks like being on TikTok. And the thing about TikTok is it's so crazy, the things that catch on there. It can be, sometimes people put their whole foot into like making a video and trying to show, and no one cares. And then you just show the smallest thing, like the most random thing about big mass. No, but just in regards to big mass, like things that people wouldn't expect or that is interesting, or like, hey, did you know that I use this, whatever, like, what'd you say, like a tag gun to make big mass? People be like, whoa, no, I didn't, you know what I mean?
100%.
Like, but I think it's important to be in the spaces that young people are already in. They're not going to come to you. You have to go to them.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have to take it to them. And I don't know how we can get it to them if it's not on social media, but maybe it starts with us putting it out there in environments like spaces that they are in, like maybe getting out there in like schools, malls, or things like that where young people are really active, like they are there consistently, and seeing that opportunity as a win for us to be like, yep.
And another thing, an idea that I have that comes to my mind is when it comes to like people volunteering in the mass camp, can't you guys have something where it's like you get the high school students who already need 40 hours volunteer to...
So we actually do that.
Okay.
Like if you need hours, come to the mass camp. We will do it. That's how majority of us get our hours when we were in high school.
Okay.
It was through the mass camp. So if you need hours, come to Tribal 3401 McNichol Avenue.
Please. But is there anything else that you wanted to talk about or touch on?
Yeah, I think we could touch on how Big Mass is something that is legacy. Okay. I think a lot of the time we look at just the carnival experience. People don't really talk about how Big Mass is a legacy thing, that sometimes it's passed down from person to person, or it's passed down from someone that you know that's seen you having that experience and that love for it. I think that's something we could touch on.
Yeah, because like I was saying earlier in this conversation, like just talking to you right now, like lights almost like this spark in me that makes me want to get involved in the big mass scene. You know what I mean? And before this, it was kind of like, well, this was my first year at King and Queen. I never really was like involved in that side. I only really saw my mom playing like pretty mass in like a regular costume.
Yeah.
But anything big mass related, I was never a part of. But just talking to you now, it's kind of like, oh, this is actually really, really, really layered and really interesting. And it makes me want to be a part of it.
Yeah, I think when it comes to big mass, a lot of us are, if you're in it, you're already like in awe by it. And I think it's important for us to, maybe this is also another way we can get more people involved, is talking about it. Like,
bro, so funny. I'm sorry. I don't mean to cut you off, but earlier today I was talking with another guest and she was like, guys, like we actually have to talk about things. Like, I feel like there was no platform before for everybody to just have a conversation about the nature of things or like the state of things. But sorry, back to your point. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Literally, I think we just need to talk more about it. Like, it's something I always talk about, even when I was younger. Like, I literally spent all summers doing mass. That's my whole summer. I never had a summer of like hanging out with friends. Like, it was mass camp or nothing.
If you want to be my friend, come help me in the mass camp.
Yeah, literally. My best friend, I met her at the mass camp.
Oh, that's so cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
Does she play big mass too?
She did it once. And she says when I'm done, she's going to take my spot.
Okay.
So I can flip roles.
So when you go to Trinidad, then she's going to...
I'm telling you,
the story is already written. I'm just seeing it so plain.
It's just playing out. You're like, yup, she's doing this.
Yeah. When you go to Trinidad, she's going to take your female individual spot and then you're going to do your thing in Trinidad and then you're going to be a commentator and then you're going to have your big mass legacy.
Okay.
You're going to be like, Caneisha Edwards, she was like the one who inspired me to get started in big mass. No, for real. I'm not even like making this up. Like this could actually be a real thing where you help younger people to have an appreciation for big mass just from your passion alone. Like I'm telling you right now, I didn't really care for big mass, like actually participating in it until having this conversation with you.
You know what's so crazy? There's kids that watch me on YouTube that play big mass, and their parents literally go, you know, like she watched you on YouTube. She literally like watches you to like see what you do. And I'm like, oh wow, oh my gosh. Like there's a kid in Boston who just watches me to like get ideas, and he watches like tribal kids to see what we were doing. And that to me is so crazy. Like the fact that people are watching me and are learning from me. I come like the people I was watching back in the day.
And that goes back to the point that you made about it being legacy. Like it's something that's really passed down, and like the people that have it in them will find the people that they look up to and that they want to be like until they find their own style. Yeah.
Until like you figure it out and you're like, yep, this is what works for me. Like I have my moves that I do that just when I do it, I'm like, yep, I know I ate. But like when you figure that out, I think that's the moment you just kind of pop off. You just do your thing and you kill it every time.
I think this has been such a nice conversation because it just, and hopefully it did for other people who are listening or watching, just kind of like lit up this curiosity, I would say, in terms of getting more involved in big mass.
I hope so, because big mass is really fun. It's stressful, but it's fun. Like you literally get so caught up that it's sad when it's over. Like you spend so much time in the mass camp and doing all these things that when it's over, you're like, so what do we do now?
Yeah. So what do you do with the costumes after? Because I've heard that they just kind of get disposed of.
Yes. That's basically what happens. There's many things you can do. Like you can scrap it or you can sell it to like another carnival.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Or you can, I don't know what you're keeping it for, but if you want to keep it.
No, but one of the things that we were talking about, I think this was the first episode or something like that, but we were talking about how Hayden from Lava was saying he feels like a lot of these big mass costumes should be in museums or somewhere where people can come and appreciate. Yeah, where people can come and appreciate it. Like, stop throwing it in the garbage. And then when I was thinking about it, I'm like, that's so true, because when I went to the museum, they had like this indigenous I don't know what you would call it. Like it's
A mural,
no, like there was
artifact,
but whatever the whole thing is called, I don't know
display.
what yeah, something like that. But you got to go and see different aspects of it. So imagine if there was like female individual, 2023 female individual winner, junior king winner, like something like that. And just to see,
Yeah.
just for people to come and appreciate, like, wow, I couldn't see all these details when I was in the stands.
Yes. That literally is something I would love to do. I want more people out there. Like, I live in Whitby.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
It's about to be a long drive home.
it is. It is about to be a long drive home. But I live in Whitby, and not a lot of people have seen mass. Like, when I was in school, like, I would show people my costumes, like, oh my gosh, they're like, this is so cool. Like, how do you make this? Is it heavy? Like, they would ask me all these questions, and it's because they don't get exposed to it.
Yeah.
They see just the parade. They don't see the whole thing. They don't see all the like tiny little details. Like when you get to zoom into a picture, when you get to see everything that goes into it, they're like, oh my gosh, that's a lot of stuff.
That's why I really appreciated the behind the scenes video that you did, because I didn't even know that sometimes you guys use a different kind of glue. I just thought it was hot glue for everything. I saw you with some big kind of, I don't know if it was
Spray
like
glue.
I'm like, yo. But seeing the behind the scenes of it, I feel like even highlighting that, something like that on TikTok.
Yeah. Like that aspect of it, like if we had a museum, like a carnival museum,
Whoa.
that'd be crazy. That would go so hard.
Whoa.
I think we should start that.
Yeah. And that's what I like about having these conversations with people is like sometimes we just get ideas just by being here together, because obviously there's the third mind that happens when you and somebody else are talking. There's literally like a third mind that happens where you get like downloads and ideas and stuff from. So in the first episode, again, shout out to David, we had this idea where we're like forming a young people carnival collective of those of us who want to see the culture continue to go forward in the best way, right?
Yeah.
Of course, there's certain issues that are happening right now that, you know, we
need to address.
Yeah.
Yes.
But just having like a group of young people, you know what I mean? A lot of times it's just the older folks who are just doing everything. But for us as young people to kind of take that initiative and do our own thing, I think that would be incredible. We have Caneisha, our big mass expert. We have this person who does this. We have that person who does that. And we really move like as a unified group to make sure that everything is the way that it needs to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that would be really, really, really cool.
And that's a great idea. Like to have that aspect within like TCC or FMC, like to have a younger generation's input and ideas would be so important, because now you kind of are touching every age group.
Right.
Because Caravan is not just 50 to 65. It's not just 25 to 2. Like it's everybody.
Yeah.
Granny, auntie, tanti, everybody.
Yes, it is, because everybody wants to come and celebrate. Everybody wants to come and free up. It doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think that would be so important to have like everybody kind of talk about it and be like, okay, from a young person's standpoint, this applies to what I'm interested in.
And then even in terms of like campaigns and stuff where it's like respect the mass or whatever, having that younger people collective to be like, yo, how do we get this message to your age group? Like, where do we need to be? How do we need to say this? What do we need to make like a funny video? Like, what do we need to do to get this message out there?
100%.
I think, yeah.
Speaking of respect the mass, can we talk about big mass and stormers?
Oh no.
Am I allowed to talk about that?
Yeah, I swear I talk about stormers like every episode. It's touched on in one way or another. But I've never even thought about that. No. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, big mass and stormers is a tough one. Like I can personally say, as someone that pulls her costume from start to end, it is not easy. Like imagine you have this huge thing already.
How much does this thing weigh?
A lot. Like I don't have a definite number, but it's a lot.
It's heavy. Just know that.
Like it's not heavy because the materials we use aren't meant to be heavy.
Okay.
But like it's heavy when you have to go up and downhill.
Yeah.
There's wind. Like it adds to it. But when you're adding to that bodies of people, it's hard. Like that whole road experience for big mass players just goes down the drain. Like when you're trying to showcase your costume, but you can't even turn the costume around to show people the back. It's like, okay, like now I'm just pulling this thing. And like, you have the whole joy for that moment is kind of just going down.
Okay. I feel like that is something that a sentiment that I've been seeing a few people having, and not only with big masks, but just like as masqueraders. Personally, for me, I don't know if it's because I'm not in the carnival scene like that to know like everything that it takes and stuff like that, but like I don't really business about the stormers. I'm like, you guys are kind of, you know, in the parade or whatever, but I'm still, and I think that's because I don't wear backpacks. Like I can't, it's hard for me to operate.
You're like, I don't need this.
I will be a backline baddie for life. Like,
ain't nothing wrong with that.
I want to be like, this year I had a frontline costume, but I took off the backpack. I gave it to my boyfriend. Then he gave it to somebody else. Hopefully somebody took it home at the end of the night because it was just too much for me. I'm sorry. Like, I know a lot of us take the pictures and then we put the feather somewhere else, but yeah, it's hard. And I prefer a backline. But, as I was saying about like the stormers and stuff, like I don't feel like they've ever ruined my carnival experience, but I can empathize with people who feel like their experience has been made sucky because of that. And one person commented on my post and she was saying like, okay, well, if all these stormers were in costume, would that be a better experience? And I don't know if you can.
I don't know if it would be. I think people in costume, and like not everyone that are stormers aren't respectful, but there's majority who are they don't appreciate it the same. Like, there are people who literally, like, when it comes to big mass and stormers, like, people literally will take your costume and go like this and fling it, like, for them to pass. Like, they will step on it. Like, they don't care. And it's like, there's nothing more hurtful when you've seen that, when someone has just, like, disrespected your whole craft. You're like,
yeah,
not like, I'm like, I don't care that I paid for this. Like, the fact that I love it and I just put out all this effort and all this stuff to like make this one magical piece, and you don't have the audacity to respect that. That's the part that really bothers like me and other big mass players, is like, we as big mass players are here, we're showcasing, we're being a part of the band, we're being a filler in the band. And to not have that respect come from people who are wearing $10 Urban Planet shorts is just rude. Like, it's just like, come on. Like, respect the fact that I put out this costume that is here and that you want to jam, but like, so do I. Like, I also want to have a good time. I also want to showcase my costume. We need to respect each other, respect the fact that this environment is also not a museum, but a showcase.
Yeah.
And I think that part gets overlooked.
And I talk about this all the time because there has to be an aspect of education. Like, a lot of people don't know that it's disrespectful. I personally moved big mask costumes out of the way so I could pass. I didn't know it was disrespect. I'm just like, yo, I have no space to pass. And I'm sure that other people feel the same way too. But when we think about it in that way, like, hey, it takes months to make this. Hey, this is fine art. Hey, like, and just change the messaging. I think it's very important to be conscious of like the media that we're sharing.
Yeah.
So when we share these messages, like, hey guys, like, when it comes to these big costumes, you move out the way. You know what I mean?
Like, or just wait. Like, our whole thing is like, just let the mass pass and do what you want.
Okay.
Like, well, not do what you want, obviously. Still respect the mass, please. But like, let the big mass pass, and then you pass. But they don't want to wait. They're like, my friend's over, so I want to pass. I'm going. And it's like, okay, you're going, I'm going. I got a huge...
Who's making it?
Like, I got a huge skirt. If I ran fast enough, I was like, I'm running right into you.
Yeah.
And sometimes, like, it's that safety aspect. Yeah. Like, people... Also, the other thing is, like, people don't understand that if we are in our costumes and we're like, we can't take a picture right now, that's something that people have to also respect.
Okay.
And I think last year and a bit of this year, people are understanding that, is that sometimes, like, it's really windy. I'm like, I can't take a picture with your 2-year-old right now when I'm barely holding on for my dear life. So
how do you get into the costume
this year?
Oh, is it different every year?
Yeah.
Okay. How'd you get into the one this year? Because you had
Crawl.
a big skirt. You crawl under?
Yeah.
What the heck? What do you wait. I wish I had a video of this to show. Did you take a video?
No.
Oh no.
I should have.
Yeah. So you crawl on the ground
Yeah.
under the skirt. You lift up the skirt and you get into the costume.
Yeah, so you lift it up and then you crawl, but you have to lift up from the front side
Okay.
because the backs have the frame.
Okay.
So you have to only go in from the front. And yeah.
That's crazy. I never thought of that. For some reason, I thought it would like open up and there's like a entry door and you.
A little entry compartment? No.
The heck? Is there anything else that you want to talk about or touch on when it comes to Big Mass or just Carnival, or maybe something that you want people to understand, like you want to leave them with before we wrap up?
I want to leave people with respect the Big Mass. Big Mass is great. If you ever want to play, you ever want a chance to make it or start somewhere, do it. Don't hesitate. There's always room for new ideas. There's always room for new mass players, and everyone could play.
Mm-hmm.
Play as much mass as you want. When it comes to Big Mass, literally, it's a blank canvas. Do what you want.
I saw this quote. Well, I don't really think it was a quote, but it was kind of like an old mass sign for a spice mass. And the man's sign said, I have one life to live, so I play in a mass.
Yes.
And like, yeah.
Preach. Sing to the choir.
Yeah. For real. So if people want to follow along with your Big Mass journey, where can they find you?
They can find me on Instagram at Caneisha Edwards, CANEISHAEDWARDS. Stay tuned. We're on there with everything.
We're en route to Trinidad.
En route to Trinidad. En route to commentary.
Thank you so much. This was so much fun.
Yes, thank you. I had a great time.
Yeah.